thank you so much for joining us today. Internship extends a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Ananya and I'm going to be your host for this webinar.
And my name is Vinayak. I'm here representing the young student demographic today, also a part of Internshape Studios. I actually spoke with a lot of you during the preparation for this webinar. A lot of students from diverse backgrounds studying things like engineering, technical sciences, management, all of that. So that has been quite fun and interesting, and I'm looking forward to share all of that with you today.
That sounds really interesting, Vinayak. And you were preparing for all this for a webinar that is being conducted in the middle of a global pandemic. Nothing else, it has changed everything. The way we live, the way we interact with each other, we study, and even the way we work. And I know it's cause for concern for a lot of people, but I do believe that it has also opened up new avenues and opportunities in the way we work.
That's very true. I think COVID-19 was definitely on a lot of young people's minds when considering the future of jobs, internships, placements, and building their career.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was interacting with them, I would say that the conversation mainly revolved around three main questions which I approached them with. And these were, firstly, do you know what you want to become in your career? Secondly, do you know how to become what you want to be in your career? And lastly, do you know how you will stay successful in your career trajectory?
Oh, wow. You asked some very young people some very difficult questions, it seems. So what did they have to say? I'm very excited to know.
Difficult, but also engaging. I would say that there was quite an interesting length and breadth of responses. They had a lot to say, and we've managed to put together a video of some of the best responses. So I think let's take a look.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Let's watch it. You know what, you have already identified some very deep, profound questions for us, and I think that's enough for us to get started with. I luckily have a great panel of experts with me to answer these very questions, and I'm not going to call them experts. I'm going to call them my team of Avengers. Okay, I'm going to introduce all of them, and hopefully we'll have the answers to all of these questions by the end of this hour. So let me start with Mr. Arvind Mehrotra. He's a technology strategist and a leader in new technologies like cloud, AI, ML, and robotics. Hi, Arvind Mehrotra, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Namaste and good evening. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's pleasure. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much. Next on, I have Mr. Ramesh Menon, who is a huge number of things. Right to your hats. He's an author. He's a filmmaker. He's a journalist, and he's also a teacher. He's seen many students pass out of Symbiosis. Hi, Ramesh, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. I'm really looking forward.
Yes, us too. Thanks. And next up, we have Ms. Latika. She has an extremely versatile career spanning over 27 years in a whole variety of sectors. Okay, there's multifunctional experience in banking, in management consulting, and in leadership coaching. Hi, Latika, ma'am. How are you doing today?
Hey, Ananya. Great to connect with all of you on this platform.
Great to see you too. Next up, I have Mr. Sanjay Kaur. He is the founder of 3 universities. Okay, stay with me. University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Indian School of Petroleum and Energy, and University of Technology Management. So a lot of combined experience here with us. Hi, Sanjay sir. How are you today? Sir, I think you're on mute.
Hi, Ananya. And the entire team of panelists. I'm really delighted to be on this platform today.
Thank you. Likewise, the pleasure is all ours. And finally, we have Mr. Shomitra Das, who also has a vast amount of experience in IT education, business development, and also digital marketing for a good spin. Hi, Shomitra sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Ananya. And really a pleasure to be here and looking forward to a good discussion.
Yes, cannot wait. So Vinayak, what do you think of my team of Avengers? Do you feel better about the questions your young audiences might have?
I'm glad that you've put together such an expert panel of knowledgeable Avengers. And I must say I'm feeling some of the guidance coming through this Zoom call, this webinar already. And so, as I said, during my interactions with young people, students, people at the start of their careers, most of them don't have a very clear idea of what, firstly, their career options are available to them after they finish their studies. So I was hoping that would be a good talking point for us to get started, a very scary prospect for young people, which hopefully we can address.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. There was a time when it was enough to find work to maintain a livelihood. And now, as the generations have progressed, it's also equally important to find something that you enjoy yourself doing. And as if that weren't enough, now we have a global pandemic to deal with. And I'm sure it must be very scary and very confusing for our young audience. So let's start with the pandemic in perspective. And because technology has been playing such a huge role in keeping businesses running, I'm going to pitch this very first and very fundamental question to Mr. Arvind. And please, could you go ahead and explain to us what kind of opportunities are available for graduate students? And especially given your experience, I think you will be of particular help to students from the technology and management streams. Arvind sir, please.
Thanks, Ananya. I think you rightly said the pandemic is creating a lot of confusion, not only in the students' minds, but also in the parents' minds, and also with the corporations who are going to hire these students. But the good news is following, that the forecast tells us that there will be still large demand for tech jobs and customer-facing roles. And this is largely due to the fact that a lot of companies during the pandemic have learned that they need to digitize their business. They have to move to more online, and they have to rejig their supply chain. So in terms of the new roles that I see emerging are not only in the space of data scientists, cybersecurity, network programmers, platform developers, but also cloud architects. But there are management teams, I think, have an opportunity to start focusing on issues like employee health and safety, rejigging the logistics supply chains, not only global, but as well as local, looking at improving the process and compliance adherence. And one more, I think everyone has moved on to the digital platforms like our own program. So digital marketing skills will be in demand. But if I were to two important things that will possibly shift, and from an Indian context perspective, is that the health challenges, cleaning the cities and running the cities smartly, they will be creating many new jobs. And the two new jobs that are going to get created, one is what I call the urban mechanics, which will help us to improve the efficiency of our environmental utilities, energy services. And that is going to set up a new demand, which will require a lot of engineering capability and a lot of data science and customer facing skills. And the second is onboarding citizens, corporates, and service providers to these new charters that the government or compliance organizations or global WHO sets for us. So that is what my take is.
That is a wonderfully informative
Thank you so
report.
much. Vinayak, what do you think?
I really enjoyed Mr. Arvind's answer, benefited from it. I was, to be quite honest, even though as I was absorbing that, it made me reflect on my university experience. I was a business management student myself, and quite a free-spirited one at that, interested in all sorts of radical entrepreneurial ideas and wacky, snazzy things that I could keep myself busy with. So one of the benefits I see from your panel of very lovely, experienced professional people today, your expert Avengers, is that we'll end up with some answers which are not one size fits all. So I would love to hear from one of your experts to talk to us about the length and breadth of students that they've interacted with, and tell us a little bit more about the opportunities for young people who are lost as to where to begin with their careers.
Yeah, that's quite an important and a very valid question. Oftentimes the emotional toll and the stress of making such a huge decision at such a young age might get a little underestimated, and especially with the uncertainty that's been going around in these tough times. Okay, I'm going to go straight to Mr. Ramesh Menon, who has dealt with hundreds of students. All right. So Ramesh sir, what do you think kids should do in these tough times in terms of tackling uncertainty, answering such, important, profound questions? How can they make sure that they have a calm head on and they're able to do the best with what they have?
a lot of students do get to me asking me a host of questions. Many of them are very worried about their futures and what things are going to be like. But once the pandemic tapers off, there'll be huge opportunities, and many of them,
Right.
and they're going to be absolutely new opportunities. So what the young people today need to do is to upskill themselves, learn how to get around changed realities, and this is a lot of mind games that they need to play with themselves. They learn how to weather the storm and stay resilient. The pandemic is not going to go away in a hurry, and we have to accept that. And the new normal demands a new kind of individual who is healthy, has a very good, robust sense of self-esteem, and who is ready to take the risks of experimenting and evolving creative methods of how to handle their lives. They have very good domain knowledge of what they have studied, okay, and that is a given. But what they need to do is to build new skills, especially communication skills. What I find among a lot of bright students is their communication skills are so poor. They might have good domain knowledge, but their speaking skills are poor. Their listening skills are poor. Their writing skills are poor. And these are areas which they need to really concentrate on. Because for the world of the future, this is going to be very, very vital.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm getting your drift correctly, I think it's in addition to the intelligence quotient that this generation is so full of, we also need some emotional quotient to be able to function well. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry, go on, please.
What I was saying, especially in the changed circumstances, you need to be positive. You need to think differently, and you need to build a new architecture, which I shall talk about.
All right, great. Okay, so we will talk a little bit more about that. And I will go back to Arvind sir again and speak a little bit about what kind of practicalities are associated with materializing the approach that you and Ramesh sir have already talked about. So in very simple terms, could you help us understand how graduate students can prepare themselves for these opportunities as well as for the new business environment that you've already explained to us?
A good question. I think one thing that I would advise the students to be aware of, that the world of uncertainty will not disappear. So tomorrow, if we assume that the COVID has come down and the cases and the unlockdown begins and we are back to business, the uncertainty will remain. And because of that uncertainty, a lot of the industries and governments and organizations which will hire these people will have a very short-term view. So I think the students will be very flexible, adaptable, and ability to deal with ambiguity will be very, very important, because people will not have time to spoon feed them. And the new digital platforms that we are all consuming, they need to have skills on those and build collaboration capability.
Right.
Now, the way that they can only address this is they should not be idling. They should start using their time till they don't get their job. So they need to have passion, they need to have perseverance, right? And they need to ensure that they build their profile by addressing whatever comes their way, right? So if they can do some volunteering job, they can do some free service in a healthcare industry, they can do some short-term project, they can do some research, they can write some blogs. So they should develop their personality, because that will make them endearing for hiring.
Yeah, thank you so much for that insight. I think in times like these, work can just be what you do with the time that you have on your hands, job or not, internship or not. What do you think, Vinayak?
I really loved how eloquently both of your expert Avengers have answered your last two questions.
Yeah.
I sat here absorbing it, and I loved what Mr. Ramesh Menon said about upskilling, the importance of it, and I'd love to learn more about how a young person goes about doing that. I also found a lot of merit in what Mr. Arvind was saying about developing your personal profile and sort of building yourself up as your own organization, as your own brand, as your personal self, so that you're ready for this sort of world of opportunities that seems to be about to explode as soon as industries step back up and we are done with this whole global mess that we are currently in. So as I said, thank you again for all these insights which are already getting me all excited. But what I do want to now continue on to is ask you what's next. How are we addressing this confusion other than preparing ourselves?
Right. There's so much that's been going on, and I'm really glad that you're finding these inputs helpful. And I have something else that you might find helpful over here. So we at Internship here, we can help you choose the right option in a very practical and pragmatic way. Okay. We've got assessment tests. We've got deep analysis that we do for you on the basis of your performance on those tests. And like today, we will also provide you with expert interaction. So at every step of the way, you will have guidance about selecting the right thing for you, the right career path based on what you already know, based on what you're good at, what you will potentially be the best at. So here's something that I wish I had when I was young.
This sounds like a fantastic platform, really, and I would love to know more. I think one of the things with my sort of age group, my demographic, my contemporaries, young people, is that we are very aspirational. We know a lot more about our ends rather than the means of how to get there. So we have a very clear vision of the status or sort of achievements or social impact or income group or income bracket of whatever, where we want to end up. But then the big question mark for us young people is, what are the stepping stones on the way? So that's, I think, the crux of this great confusion. How do we bring in more clarity to that sort of ideology? What is the path towards it?
Yeah, that's a great question, a very valid question, and I have just the right Avenger to ask this question to. Sanjay sir, you have seen almost 20,000 students passing out of all of the universities that you founded. All of them are successfully placed. I think you will be the best person to answer this. If a person knows what they want to do, but they're confused regarding what paths they should take to get there, what should they do?
Well, confusion is a state of life which continues throughout. It shows us that we are living. And we would always be confused throughout our life about the choices we have. And that's like a blessing, because you are always confused when you have choices, you have information, you have aspirations, and that's life. So one of the things to treat confusion is that it's an empowering motion rather than anything negative. You are always confused when you have choices to make and you are applying yourself to make those choices. So it's great. It's great to meet a confused person, because then you can work with him or her. The second thing is that, as I would agree with Vinayak, that the generation we see are truly aspirational. They have high aspirations, and the perhaps challenge starts when the two major components of the aspiration, that is the information and the self-management, is confused one with the other. Now, while we are confused, we have hordes and hordes of information available to us at the touch of button. Now, while we are processing that information, if we don't care of self-management, for example, what are we driven by? Are we being driven by desperateness, doubt, fear, or are we being driven by, as rightly put in by Ramesh and my learning friend Arvind, are we driven by, like, see how optimistic they are. They know that there is a life beyond COVID, and how positively they are approaching it, that upskill yourself, etc. How naturally it comes out from people who are using their wisdom. So one thing to ask for anybody who's nursing aspiration is, what's the self-management? What are you driven by? If you are driven by hope, positivity, and affirmative action, that you not only think, but you do it. You don't only worry, but you solve a problem. That's affirmative action. And you are managing your positivity. You're hopeful. You're optimistic. Then perhaps your aspiration has a better chance of reaching you there. And I would like to comment on the aspiration part also. With 40, 50, 60 years of work spans, this generation has got a far more bigger canvas than any of its generations previously. Though it is true for most of the generations which sort of precede you, but at the same time, it's really big. So no longer we can call a single goal, single purpose life, single dream, etc. All we can think about is milestones, simple milestones. Can I be not dependent on my parents in the next 60 months? Can I learn at least 5 applications in the next 3 months? I mean, it could be as simple milestones when we talk of upskilling or whatever. Dreams could be bigger. So what works with us and what's available to us will work far better for aspirations and will clear away the confusion. The best way to clear the confusion is to start doing what your aspiration is asking you to do it. Not think about upskilling, but actually getting involved with upskilling. Not thinking about applying, but applying. Not thinking about learning, not worrying about it, but start learning. And I must say that having handled 20,000 students and their thing, it's a journey. What your career is going to be revealed in many, many, many years. Having achieved many, many milestones, and who you really are will also get revealed along the way. So that's where the passion starts, that you start enjoying that process. So confusion is good. Start doing what your aspiration is doing. Don't get informed about upskilling. Upskill, learn, apply, try, meet, talk, visit, do. Affirmative action would clear away any confusion. And as you travel along, you will have not one big truth which will reveal itself after a very long time, but a host of truths about yourself and about the opportunities you have, which will chip away any confusions, because there will be more and more confusions along the way. So you will then develop the mechanism to handle the confusion part and be on the affirmative action side.
That is a lot of wisdom and a lot of gyan downloaded in a very short time. I don't know about you, my brain is buffering right now. It will take me some time to absorb all that and finish loading. But I was very intrigued when you mentioned one of your panelists, Miss Latika, and her experience and her credentials. I would love to ask her a question if you let me.
Oh, please be my guest.
So, Latika ji, welcome again to the webinar. And one of my favorite quotations that I love to live by, I'm not claiming that it came from a very intelligent book. I probably read it on Instagram at some point, but it does resonate with me. And it says that job well begun is half done. And I've found it to be true at various points in life. So what I would like to ask you is, after you've chosen your line of work, I think the next bigger question is, it doesn't take much to get a job or to start somewhere, but you have to think about your journey from that point on. How do you become successful at it after you get your big break? So my question to you is there a guiding philosophy on how to have a successful career?
Oh, thank you, Vinay. Thank you for your question. So I've been hearing a lot of pandemic talk, and I've been hearing a lot of, times are challenging. There is no two ways on that. And life is probably, as of now, where we are, a little difficult. But I think let's take a more, which our panelists have also been trying to drive home, is that let's take a more positive view of life. And there is actually, work life is an exciting journey. And yes, there are some philosophies, there are some guidelines which, if we are adhering to, or in which we kind of go with, then I think they hold us in good stead. My own personal 3 mantras that I would like to share with you is, the first one is a very simple one, which is stay true to your values of integrity, hard work, and discipline. I know we've all been, all our parents all along have told that to us. They seem like words, but believe you me, they're more than words. I think just actually living those values is something which can take you on a journey of success. Respect people and build relationships. I think very important in life to treat people with empathy and be genuinely interested in them, respect them, nurture the relationships, and they hold you in great stead. I think these two mantras, to a large extent, we all are aware of, have lived by. The third principle, which I wanted to talk a little more and stress a little more on, was that we all need to consciously inculcate in our work is a mantra called "Stay hungry, stay foolish." It's something that got popularized by Steve Jobs, though I think coined some many years back ago. But Steve Jobs is in one of his talking to one of the student groups had said that stay hungry, stay foolish. Basically, the message here is that you need to stay a lifelong learner and just keep walking the path of learning. And in today's time and age, I think it holds so much water that it's probably the single most important mantra for all of us to follow if we want to get success our way. We are today in the midst of what we call the fourth revolution, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that. This is a term that was coined by a gentleman called Klaus Schwab, who's the chairman of World Economic Forum, but basically describes a situation that we find ourselves today, which is where technology is leading a fusion of physical, digital, and the biological worlds. I'm just going to take a minute and just quote from what he said. He said, the impact of this fourth revolution is changes so profound that from the perspective of human history, there has never been a time of greater promise or potential peril. So that kind of starts ringing a bell in our minds. So for the 1.8 billion, and that's a very large number, global youth, the age groups of 15 to 29, are probably in need to keep a watch on actually how their roles in the future are going to change. Consumers are changing, workers are changing, competition is changing. So we need not just to be prepared, we need to stay ahead of the curve, which means we are constantly in the process of learning. And a lot of our panelists have talked about it, and I'm just reiterating that same thing, that the third mantra for all of us probably to adhere to is keep learning all your life. That's the only way we will move ahead. I hope that answers your question, Vinay.
It does. I really think it was very efficiently and clearly communicated. I sort of feel like it has given or presented a very actionable path that you can follow towards getting that success consistently and keep building it. But I do think, Ananya, like for young people, you and I, we do really get taken and impressed with mantras and values like this, which make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And of course, they're profound. Of course, they're true in action, in practice. But some things at the end of the day do feel like they're a little bit easier said than done. And unfortunately, one of the major challenges that we all face, students mostly face, is how do you end up building these values into your life and into your personalities? How do you end up building these competencies? So please help me out with that a little bit.
Yeah, I will. And without saying anything much, I'm just going to summon one of my Avengers for this. Ramesh sir, what do you think are the challenges for our youths to find jobs? What is it that they should concentrate on building? Because I'm really, and all of us, we're really enjoying soaking up all this wisdom, all this inspiration, and most importantly, the optimism that you are highlighting for us. It's such a breath of fresh air. But how do we put this into action? Could you just give us some pointers about what are the skills that you've already mentioned about upskilling? What are these skills that we can concentrate on building?
See, the employers of the future are actually going to look at a new candidate. And that candidate would have to be a candidate who has a strength of conviction, who is positive in nature, who has some personal philosophy of life. This is very, very important. You know, we all come from a damaged education system, which teaches us so many things, but doesn't teach us self-esteem, doesn't teach us to be confident, doesn't teach us to have values in life, you know. And what Latika spoke about is very true, you know. I mean, these are the things which are going to make a difference tomorrow. And young people must concentrate on building a new architecture of their mind. And they cannot do that until they spend time alone. This is very, very important, because when you spend time alone, you can start working on that personal philosophy of life. When you're in a crowd, you're completely lost. And the conversation is usually garbage. So, but when you're alone, there is no garbage. And you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about what are the kind of values that you need to build in your own self, and how you can make your life much, much richer. It's very important to have faith in yourself and in your creative abilities. You know, a lot of people, they're very good. Everyone is creative. But if you ask them, are you creative? They'll say, no, we are not creative, because education has destroyed it. They were creative when they were children, but education drove them into this very, very stereotyped system where they were made to think in boxes all the time, rather than getting out of that box and thinking. And it's very important to also have courage, to have convictions, even if it is a different one, and to stand out alone, and to feel good about the fact that you're different. I think another very important thing for young people today is to open the windows of their mind so that new ideas can come in all the time. Because the world of tomorrow is going to be very, very different. They have to plan and work towards getting ready for a new world. And the new world is not going to be a bad one. Trust me.
That's good.
A lot of things are going to get corrected down the road, you know, in terms of our own value systems. Even if we ask ourselves, you know, so much of our value systems have changed because we have realized that money is not important really. Health is important. Safety is more important. Hygiene is more important. We need to have much cleaner cities, as one of just spoke about. So there are new jobs going to happen, and there are going to be new avenues. So young people should not even be apprehensive at all. I keep telling them that look at the future with positivity, because that is very, very important. Build yourself up. Build your personalities up.
Yeah, that's so important. And what you were saying about the education system and how we lose our individuality, that actually reminds me of Teddy Roosevelt's quote about the man in the arena and the critic who does not know what it's like to dare greatly with courage. And even if the man in the arena fails, he does so while daring greatly. So yeah, thank you so much for outlining that for us. Vinayak, what do you think?
My self-esteem and self-worth has taken a boost just from listening to that. And I'm really happy about the fact that you've got a couple of really forward-thinking futurists in your panel, because the picture that is being painted of the future is don't only prepare and skill yourself for the opportunities that you think you have, but also for the opportunities that you may not know that you're going to have. And that is just mind-blowing. However, I will say that people have been playing to their strengths by now. Your Avengers haven't had too much of a challenge. So tough questions kisi ko to पूछने पड़ेंगे. And if that person is me, so be it. So my next question is a biggie. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of clarity about personal development and getting ready for a career. However, on the other hand, it is also a reality that there are more and more emerging technologies being developed and coming up every day. So one of the questions that I have, which is going to be a little bit difficult to answer, is how do young people keep up with these emerging technologies? How do you get ready for them to start working in those arenas?
Okay, so making friends with technology, because at a time like this, even when you're not in the IT sector per se, you are still, you can't do without technology, right?
Yes.
So, right, okay. I did not play my entire hand all at once. I have my trump card still up my sleeve. So Shomitra sir, over to you. What is the role that IT knowledge will play in career success? How can our young audience keep ourselves updated with technology when it's changing so quickly? Like these days, especially, it's changing every single day. I'm not exaggerating. So what do you say?
Okay, I'll try to answer that, and I think it is something that we all are figuring out. So, so it may not be the best, but then let me try to give you some answers from my own background. First of all, I think every job today has to have an IT component. So I think whatever the young students today are learning to be, I mean, whether you are learning out to be a graphics artist or a marketing guy, even to be in accountancy or a doctor or an engineer, there has to be a pretty large component of the work that you would be doing using technology. So I think we have to imbibe that and make it part of everything that we do. So first of all, I mean, that does not mean that we have to, all of us have to get into coding, but we have to use technology for doing whatever we are doing. Like, for example, giving you an example, like I studied marketing, but today whatever I'm doing is most of it is digital marketing. So and using a lot of marketing technology to drive a business. So which is something that I had to pick up over a period of time, and that is what everybody will have to do. So I mean, if you look at it, I mean, even for roles, let me be specific in terms of roles. Doctors, even today and in the future, would be using a lot of AI to do a lot of their work in terms of helping them in diagnostics, even to do robotic surgeries. People who are in finance, even if it is finance is their core job, but they might be using data science to actually detect frauds, right? So, if even a thing, if somebody is in agriculture or a farmer, today data science is even like using IoTs. So people who like are livestock farmers are using a lot of IoTs to kind of drive their decisions and these things. So it has to be part of it, I think. So now how do we? But at the same time, like you said, technology is changing very fast. Like I started with something like DBase, Fox Pro, and today we are looking at I mean RDBMS. So even the technology changes so fast. Today, so what we do? We have to continuously keep learning. So that is what I heard from all my previous speakers. So we have to be. It is a lifelong learning for all of us. Let me give you an example. Like my daughter is in second year of engineering. She enrolled for a course in data science to prepare for her career in IT, right? And at the same time, I also enrolled in the same course so that I could sustain and remain in the same industry, because that is what the industry is all about, right?
Yeah.
So so we all need to be like step up, do continuous learning. A lot of us have a fear that a lot of our jobs will be taken away because of AI and technology. Yes, there would be a replacement.
Yes.
Jobs which are more like mundane and which are repetitive, they would disappear over a period of time using technology. But we all can be more creative. We can take up jobs which are more creative in nature, which will take longer. Like for example, Google can answer an email today in yes, no, maybe, sure, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, so that is there, but it still cannot write a proposal to a girlfriend, or maybe write a letter to a girlfriend, right? So that is something that we still have to do. So those are there would be roles which would, and we all have to step up for it. There are a couple of things that I would like to say to our young audience, is that it is the time for us to be adventurous and remain lifelong adventurous, to try out things that we have not done before. We should be curious, and curiosity is something that we have to continuously have throughout our life. There has to be a hunger to learn, right? And it has to be, again, a lifelong thing. And we have to continuously reinvent ourselves.
Right.
For that, we need to invest in ourselves. right? So both in terms of giving us time and also in terms of probably going to some institute. So the academic institute may not have all the answers. So we have to have take up courses on our own, and then the best part is that there are many available. So we could learn a lot through mentorship, through on-the-job trainings, and through also a lot of online training, and be continuously update ourselves. So
Right.
it is something that we should plan that we should never be complacent, because that is in the way the industry is. If we are complacent, we are going to be out of the industry.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Takes me back to what Arvind sir was saying about whether you have some time between your college education and the next internship or job you have, you can still do some volunteer work. You can still spend some time on yourself. It's not like you're wasting time or you're falling behind even. It's a great opportunity, like you said, to invest in yourself, to upskill. So thank you so much for that. Vinayak, do you feel better about your extremely difficult question that you just asked?
Yes, I think Saumitraji's answer provided a really interesting and fascinating insight into this kind of fast-moving world of IT and emerging technologies. I was especially taken with, I do sniff very exciting business entrepreneurial opportunity for an app that writes proposals to girlfriends. I think there's some money
Yeah,
to be
I'm sure
made
you're
there.
interested in that. Yeah.
But on jokes apart, I do see by now, hearing all the answers from these experienced, knowledgeable people, there is a very long list of prospective career opportunities, as well as the methods to start your career, as well as the methods to sustain success over your career. So given these long lists, there is a lot of confusion of, what to pick and choose to create your perfect sort of alchemy of
Right.
professional success.
Yeah.
So my next question is there a way to organize it? Is there a way to prioritize and choose?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, alchemy is a fantastic analogy. I love it. And I'm going to ask this question of you, Latika ma'am. I'm going to take the help of my friend Mats a little bit and cite some survey data for you. All right. A recent survey suggests that 54% of employees, so that's more than half the people employed currently, they believe that it's essential for them to get some sort of training, some sort of instruction to be able to upskill. And at the same time, employers are also displaying a clear preference of real, applicable, and maybe even transferable skills over a coveted academic degree. So what would you say are the skills that can be successfully applied to any position, any field, any industry in a transferable manner? In an independent manner, it's something that can be acquired. So what would you say?
Thank you, Ananya. You're absolutely right. And the data that you quoted is actually a recent data, I think, and it kind of sensitizes all of us to the high level of dissonance with what we currently know. So you're right, the future is not about degrees, but it's going to be about skills and skilling. It is actually a very interesting factoid that I also wanted to share with you all is that it's believed that every 5 years, the value of your professional skills that you hold is actually supposed to be, it's expected to be reducing to half. That's a little bit scary, which means that if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you will need to assess your own skills every 2 or 3 years and get started on learning new skills sooner than later. Yeah.
Okay.
Having said that, there are some core skills which I guess do apply across industries, and I'll just very quickly share them with you. The first one, and I'm also taking a cue from Ramesh sir, what he said. He spoke of a mindset change that we need to bring about. So we actually need to be developing an ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn, because there is no fixed learning that we can work with all our life. So we really need to develop a growth mindset. And that's what Ramesh sir was also sharing with us in his wisdom. Second core skill that we need to develop is communication, and a lot of the panelists have touched upon it. Vinayak is hopefully going to create an app which will help write letters and proposals for young girlfriends. But I'm not so sure if there is yet an app which is something, yes. So there is a lot of sound bites that we are working with, but when it comes to professional writing, again, like Ramesh sir was mentioning, we seem to be lagging behind. And there is enough and more space for us to actually pick up that skill, which sends, we can write our professional communication, our communication with the client, or to deliver basically a coherent and an effective communication which is accurate. I think that skill needs to be developed. Another, a little more specific that I wanted to share with you was also on project management. So, we need to ask ourselves that can you see the big picture and break it down into small, manageable action steps? Can we do that?
Right.
If so, then you have undeniable value that your work life can benefit from. You cannot afford to be just the idea man. You need to develop the ability to be able to execute those ideas. And then there is problem solving. We have actually a lot of conversations which happen around our ability to break down a issue or challenge and actually get into a problem solving mode. So how often do you go beyond your immediate task on hand and instead use more knowledge, collect more data, to see the gap and solve the problem? That's something that's going to hold you in good stead. Employers value good problem solvers who can work through challenges by defining the issues, the brainstorming it, developing alternatives, sharing thoughts, and then making sound decisions. So that's another very important skill set that we need to work on. Technology is something which everybody is talking about, and I think there is no taking that away, because that's become like the bedrock of anything and everything we do. So that's something which we will continuously need to keep ourselves abreast of in terms of my line of work, what's happening and what do I need to learn, whether I'm a marketeer or a doctor or maybe an administrator. So whatever it be, technology continues to play a role. So these are the key 4 skill sets we will need to evaluate, and then some more. And then we have to look at what is relevant to my work and then develop that as well. So it's a challenging life ahead, but I think it's a fun life ahead too. Yes. I will very quickly share with you what Alan Toffler many years had said. He said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and then relearn. That's because, in an environment where new skills emerge as fast as the others fade, success is about what you already is not about what you already know, but it's more about adapting your skills and to use information and skills to respond to whatever is happening. So cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Yes. So I hope that answers your question, Ananya.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And Vinayak, what do you think? We started off with not having enough information. There was a point where there was so much information, we needed it packaged for us in a right, clear, actionable instruction set. And I think we are kind of getting there as well. So what do you say now?
I think I found my newest Instagram post with that quote. It was very deep. It made a lot of sense. And I think I speak for a lot of young people on this webinar, students who are watching and messaging quite a lot. It seems to be exploding with activity, which I'm happy to see. And lots of work for you guys, more questions for you guys. But there is, I think I speak for everyone when I say there's a lot more clarity on how to get career success in general, as well as these universal transferable skills that Latika ji was just talking about, how to hone those, how to use them to our advantage. But I do have one more question for you. And I hope that you're able to get a wonderful experienced person to answer that as well.
Yes.
And what I was thinking about now was, once you're sort of in the zone and you start working, what can you use from your what are the opportunities for learning from your circumstances, from your environment? How do you take those opportunities to learn and turn them into traits that you nurture within yourself? So in simple words, how do you use your environment or your circumstances to keep learning and to keep re-educating yourself?
Okay, so you basically want me to bridge education with work, and then education in the sense of upskilling yourself and learning more and more while you're on the job. Okay, I have just the right person for that. Sanjay sir. you have established so many universities. It's your profession is education. So you have a wonderful blend of learning, unlearning, and relearning in an educational context as well as a professional context. So what are the top 3 traits that one needs to exhibit for continued success in one's career?
Well, I have nothing very innovative to share. And it has been so well presented and articulated by all the other panelists, whether they have spoken about the new architecture of the mind or working with technology. I mean, it's all there. I mean, if you're taking notes, it's an entire mind map, and and it will last you a lifetime. And
Yes.
you see the mind map, and you see how it has taken 2 million years for the human mind to get here, and what has happened in the last 100 years, and what has happened in the last 5 years. That mind map still works. So it's amazing that it's something very, very basic, which is guiding us forward. However, if I'm pushed to choose the top 3 traits, which I've seen working in all the in the entire, whatever alumni I meet on a very vast section, which are working in more than 500 companies across the globe, I see the very first trait I see is affirmative action.
Right.
I have seen in people, there are people who do, and then there are people.
All right.
So, don't think about getting up. Don't think about running. Don't think about studying. Don't think about skilling. Don't think about good communication. Don't think about good listening. Beyond a point, do it. My learned friend Ramesh, who's been teaching for that long, will tell you that you can be an activist, you can empower someone with knowledge, etc., to fight his or her own battles, or you could do affirmative action. I would choose affirmative action. And affirmative action does not mean doing it grand, doing it all the way, taking full responsibility of it and believing that the world depends on you now and everything is focused on your action. It is just doing the next logical thing which your aspiration is telling you is necessary for you. Because information is no longer premium. You know what needs to get done. So first trait I see is affirmative action. The second thing is outcome orientation, as I call it. You need to ask us what this webinar is going to give. You need to ask yourself, how was today? What did I achieve? What did I achieve out of pandemic? So what's the outcome?
Yes.
Asking yourself constantly about the outcome is the second trait I've seen in achievers and leaders and successful people, and whether they are students, whether they are primary school children, or they are high school students, or they are CEOs. They are very concerned about developing constant criteria for judging their outcomes.
Right.
And they're failure proof in terms of they know there will be failure, grand successes, not so successful, routine, ordinary. They are constantly answering that question, what was achieved.
Right.
The third very simple thing is that which I found the trait which out of 8-9 traits is people who are able to play their passion. Because you don't know your passion unless you play it. There are thousands of musics. Unless you listen to 500-600 of them, how do you know which one you like?
Yeah.
Right. So your ability, once you're done the affirmative action, you are constantly working on your outcomes. You have to then see how are your passions being served in that.
Yeah.
And the more and more affirmative actions you do, the more and more outcomes you observe, the more of your passions come forward, And once they start playing, then sky is the limit. Because then the passion takes you, and whatever you were saying that you must enjoy what you are doing starts happening. And then you're not doing anything, you're just enjoying actually and achieving and doing and enjoying and achieving. So these are the three traits I've seen out of many. Onto that, along with the entire mind map the other speakers have shown us.
Right. So all work and all play makes Jack a happy, very happy person, right? You have left us no difference between work and play with those insights. Vinayak, over to you. Did you have anything else to ask us? I think this is a pretty great way to seal this deal. What do you say?
Yeah, I think that was very insightful and very encouraging as well. So I would like to thank Sanjay ji and you for bringing that aspect of sort of career readiness and these kind of undeniable traits that you should hang on to and have, the no-brainers, I think I would call them. And if I would like to take this opportunity to ask some of the questions being put up by the brilliant young people on this webinar and my cohort. So if you just bear with me 1 minute, I would love to put forward a question.
My Avengers are ready for you. Go on.
Yes. So this is coming from Ruchi Dhar, and it's not addressed to anyone in particular, but you can throw this question forward to whomever you would like. And Ruchi is asking, she says that she has done engineering in computer sciences, but she's interested in a future career around supply chain management. She asks, can you please assist me, and how will I achieve along this career path?
Okay, Arvind sir, can I call upon you for this question, because you have all the experience that Ruchi wants to know more about. So please take this question.
Okay, thanks, Ananya. So I think my response to Ruchi would be the following. Since you are an engineering graduate, I'm sure you should learn about ERP and supply chain solutions from the IT perspective. But add on to that, the process understanding. What are the open source standards around supply chain? So for example, make to stock, right? Engineer to order, reverse logistics. So find out which process area you want to understand or want to work in, right? The third, which is very clearly, is start reading sufficiently, because the World Economic Forum has said post-COVID, the supply chains will have to be rejigged. So there'll be many opportunities. And the best way to do is start as an intern with anyone who's running a shared services organization with a supply chain focus. Go and see if you can get an opportunity there. Take that job, whether they pay you or don't pay you, use it, pursue your passion, learn, and then develop skills to be available to the job market.
Yeah. Ruchi, I hope that helps. Vinayak, anything else? Oh, Ruchi, thanks you, Arvind sir. We just received a ping. I'm going to pass on Ruchi's thanks to Arvind sir and add my own to that.
The next question comes from a brilliant fellow by the name of Shashank, and he's from Kanpur. He is addressing this question to Ramesh ji from the panel, and he asks, how does one go about becoming a filmmaker, for instance? What is the path towards that career path?
I was waiting for a question like that to pop up. Ramesh sir, please answer this for us. I also want to
see rocket science about filmmaking anymore. Everyone is a filmmaker today because you have a phone and you can shoot. But the point is this, the most important thing is, where is your heartbeat? If you want to make a film, what is that subject that you want to make the film on? It can't be anything. So figure out what is that subject that you're passionate about, which you feel very strongly about. It's only then that you can make a great film, whatever it is, whether it's fiction or whether it's non-fiction. So once you've picked up a subject that you're passionate about, start your research. And your research will change the direction of the film, because when you start researching, you see different angles and different layers that you can put into the film. What is it that you actually want to focus on? And that is very important. Others, the film will run all over the place. And one way of finding out your focus is maybe you should talk about your idea to somebody. And while you're talking about that idea, suddenly your focus will be very clear because you're using that person as a soundboard. And once your focus is clear, you know what the film is going to be like. So just sit down and visualize the entire film in front of you. What is it going to look like? What are the visuals going to be like? Who are the people who are going to talk in your film? What are the characters going to be like? And then sit down and write a very rough script. I'm not saying final script, just a rough script, so that it helps you to figure out where you want to go and shoot and what you want to shoot. And then you have to do something called the recce. Recce is a trip where you take to hunt locations, to hunt what are the kind of um, places that you want to actually shoot in, to fix up everything for the shoot, like from the taxi driver to the hotel that you're going to live in. Where are you going to have your breakfast? All these things have to be figured out in your recce, because you shouldn't waste any time. Filmmaking is an expensive thing and you have to hit the ground running. So in your recce, you also start doing research. There have been instances personally with me where I have gone and done research and I've come back with a completely different film because the research showed something else. And then go on your shoot finally and shoot everything. And you have a short list. So you can every day keep ticking off saying, I've got these certain shots with me. And once you finish your shoot, come back and write your final script and voice it. Get a person with a very good voice. If you are passionate about it and you have a good voice, fantastic. Use your own voice. Otherwise, use somebody who is a professional. And then start editing the film. And you need a professional editor who will allow you to tell your story seamlessly. As a storyteller, you will be able to do a great thing. Don't worry about it. There is no great rocket science to it. It's just about the experience and the joy of making a film. And today, young people should look at alternatives like this. See, you have to look at skills where you can stand alone and not do a job. But you have those skills where you can go and work on your own. You can employ yourself. You can be an entrepreneur. You can be an innovator. And the pandemic is actually throwing those challenges at us. And we should go and pick it up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you did say, thank you so much for those insights. You did say that it's not rocket science, but then, I was thinking of the worst movie that I've ever seen. And I was thinking that maybe it is rocket science, which is not everybody.
That was very interesting, the insights that Ramesh ji shared. And I was personally very disheartened with the TikTok ban in India, because I was a young person with a smartphone and the power to, shoot these wacky and wild things. But that has sort of re-inspired that creative in me, and hopefully in Shashank as well, who is asking this question. I do have one more question, and this is for Soumitra ji. Deepshika is asking this question, and her question is very straightforward. She's asking whether exposure to digital marketing will help her to get a job in an advertisement agency.
Well, a simple answer to that, of course, is yes. What digital marketing would basically do is, if you already have a background in marketing, which is the basic. So what I'm trying to actually explain here is that there is an academic certification or a standard that you should always get, which actually qualifies you and gets you the basic. And plus, digital marketing is something that you could have as an add-on, which is something that as a skill which the industry is looking for right now. And there is a dearth of digital marketing professionals currently in the industry. So definitely it is something that's going to be, there are a lot of jobs, and it's a good career to take up.
Wonderful. Thank you for your insight.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
And do we have, I hope we have a little bit of time for a couple of more questions, if I may.
I'll give you 2 minutes, Vinayak.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because people are very interested and are sort of opening up now. So why not take this opportunity?
Yeah.
And I have the next question coming up is from Seema. She's writing in from Rohtak, and she would like to ask Mr. Arvind about the scope of opportunities in cloud technologies right now.
So thanks, Vinayak. And so my response to Seema would be that there are multiple cloud platforms that are available. So one is Azure, the second is AWS, the third is Google, then you have Salesforce, and many, many more.
Right.
So you have to combine your skills with cloud. Are you trying to be on the data side? Are you trying to be on the app side? Are you trying to be on the IoT side? Are you trying to be on the cognitive side, or you're going to be on the infrastructure side? Because cloud is many things. Cloud is also a new delivery model. Cloud is also technology, and cloud is also how you manage and consume cloud, because it's too federated. So there are a lot of legal and cost management implications even for a finance person. So I would first encourage that based on the choice that she makes, she gets herself certified. It is easy to get certified. That is number one. The good news is that on cloud, you can be at home and set up spin instances, use your own credit card, your dad's credit card, or your mother's credit card, whoever credit card has. You need to be careful that you don't keep that instance running for a long period of time, because you can run a large bill. So try deploying the technology that whatever you learn, because that is what is important. And third is that also start understanding that we are heading into a economy called consumption economy and a circular economy. So understand from your role or the role that you are pursuing, how do you impact the consumption economy or the circular economy? And that will help you to open up the doors.
Thank you, Arvindji.
Okay.
I really appreciated that detailed answer. However, I am getting a beeping red light of a little bit of a time alert now.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of enthusiastic and excited questions coming in from our participants on this webinar. And I would request everyone to please kindly visit internshape.com, log into internshape.com, and address your questions to the website directly, because even through the website, equally experienced, qualified, wonderful people will get in touch directly and answer your questions there.